So it's the that bridge. It's our responsibility. They're expensive.
And that particular bridge is really spendy, especially with lead-based paint over waters of the US.
Because it got lead-based paint.
Yes, it does.
How would the state ever let that happen?
When it was done,
Yeah.
30 years ago or 40 years
It was
ago.
more
or
than
whatever.
30 years ago.
I was just kind of curious on that. So it's
Yeah, that's
quite a
something I've been thinking about that and trying to make some plans towards at least getting some planning money for it, so.
But, you know, controlled access to that would actually lend itself better, because we're trying to have that so it isn't high density or housing.
Right.
You know, but if you have the commercial type zoning, it makes it a lot more reasonable to have controlled access and preserves the rural nature of those other roads. That's just our 2 cents worth.
I don't know if we've really fleshed that out. Have we? I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with not going on one. Down the middle. I don't remember us having those discussions.
From 20 to 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
if
that,
we
those
talked about
options
it.
were come back, they presented 3 different options here, but it hasn't got to a point of determining one versus another right now.
Right.
And so all 3 of the options are still,
There's
so
2
one of
now.
them was,
So the one that went north when we drew it, it looked like it went next to HK's pit. Further development showed us they've already started that excavation.
Okay.
And for that reason, we took it off. So there's 2.
I guess I'm not ready for the county to weigh in and say that I know that's your personal standpoint, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Just
That's the
the
county
long-term
standpoint.
planning, you know, it's for the zoning.
I think for the zoning, for the access control, there's a lot of benefits for
You
it.
know, because that whole beaches, they're not beaches. Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, beaches.
Beaches
Corner,
Corner,
you know, I mean, our decisions on that push that towards commercial.
I
Well,
have talked to Kelly Hoops a little bit about some of those accesses and some of the concerns that I had with on alignment or off alignment, just in preliminary, but nothing final, so.
Okay, well, now back to the,
so the first action item is the resolution 23-13 that talks, or it's basically, it's road closure and maintenance agreement for US Highway 26 of Bonneville County between ITD. And so I hope that you've been able to read that through. There was a couple discussions that I had with Ryan Day back and forth, and we had a little bit of language in there, but overall, I think it just goes along with the agreement that was signed earlier this year. And there was 2 places to sign there for the Commissioner Christensen, I think, there's 2 different sheets.
just do okay.
Sweet.
We got a free update. Show that voted.
The second action item is the agreements with Idaho Department of Fish and Game for the Upper Meadow Creek access improvements. The paperwork on this has been kind of an ongoing continuation of things, but the project is actually done. We went and did it, and we're kind of doing the paperwork after the fact to try to get the money from them.
What was it you did?
We, on Meadow Creek Road, we took care of some beaver issues and some washout issues and added a bunch of gravel to the base.
Did they relocate the beaver?
Yes, they did, supposedly. Once it left site, I don't know, our guys knew what happened to it, so.
Higher place.
That's competition.
There's a signature on the front page there too that needs. Hopefully this will be the last paperwork needed to actually get the money for the fishing game.
Of course, I don't know if that's on the Meadow Creek Road that you're talking about, but Hutton, he's by his, for about 2 years.
Well, his recollection and my recollection are different about what we've talked about. When he talks to me is, oh yeah, I talked to the commission. Ago. And so, yeah, I've talked about gravel, but I haven't committed to delivering any gravel to him. He says the commissioner is committed to delivering gravel to him.
No, they haven't.
Well, and I didn't think that was the case, but
That's when we had to kind of battle with company's gate.
yeah. It's pretty close to the area where we worked on too.
The gate is.
Yeah.
So what's the issue with the gravel? You just said they get in there in hunting season. Nothing, it just sinks out.
So he wants it on his driveway approach too, and that's where it gets, it's like, no, we typically don't deal with approaches. So if it's on the road itself, maybe we can do that, but he doesn't want it just on the road. He wants it back into his approach. And that's where I have some challenges with it.
Bought some potatoes last week, so maybe he'll be back again this week. It's the Shelley area.
Okay. Okay. We have a couple plats and development agreements.
CBI, do you guys need us anymore?
Anything more for us?
Okay.
You're free to go.
Thank you, guys.
CBI Business Park Division 1, final plat development agreement.
Just send me your car. Where's that?
So
Okay.
northwest
The
of
one-
Bear Mountain.
Okay.
Packet.
Yeah. And we went back and forth with the city of Idaho Falls on.
Outright.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's a shame. But they could work. Utilities.
Yeah, to get it into the city
Yeah. That is a shame.
services.
Maybe they'll have a little encouragement now.
Yeah.
Get the gravel up to the fire.
They got that up the week that I was in Boise on that Thursday. I think they got it all up there.
Did that work okay?
Delivering it, I think worked fine. I don't know if they've actually done any of the work on site itself to deal with it, put it in. But as we just, all we did was deliver it,
How
so
many loads?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Next one is first amended Melaleuca Country Division 1. No development agreement with this one. They're not planning any building or improvements there.
They just, behind the Melaleuca building, they just added some ground to basically break their well lot off onto a separate piece and the sewer plant.
Stuff like that.
But yeah, it's their office buildings.
But it comes off the temporary lift station.
Yeah, that was part of it too.
I guess everybody was okay with the language that we're gonna add to the top of the permit.
That was
Okay. And Austin, I'll try and get you that list.
Okay,
Contractors and
he's gonna send me a list of the road contractors so we can get that PUD ordinance sent out to all of them, and then I'll send it to the cities at the same time, so.
probably include the engineering firms around as well, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be good.
in case one of the utilities doesn't need to remind them.
Well,
They might be-
especially fall water, they use Christensen Associate or what is it, SA
Yeah,
Associates now.
it's SA now, I just talked to the guy.
There's a few of them that Ford friend that usually do it without BSD.
They usually just do it without asking.
Well, they're engineers that work for those companies, and so they need to be notified of it as well.
Oh, I had some.
Just another piece of information, I met with the city of Swan Valley City Council Monday night. And we talked about Stoltenberg Lane again. They had asked for a price to basically oil Stoltenberg Lane. That one itself does not have a very good base, and so the price was pretty high to do 1 mile of road. It was about $400,000. They want to find a way to maybe decrease the cost of that. And one of the options that was talked about is getting the material from up there in our pit right next to our building. Well, and the problem with that is the city of Swan Valley planning ordinance was changed a few years ago to make it impossible for us to do crush. So now they're going to look at changing their planning and zoning ordinance and reducing the distances away from dwelling units to allow us to maybe actually do a crush up there. And that would maybe decrease the amount of money, because I had prices and bases, we're taking it from down here, delivering it up there.
We'd still charge them for the gravel.
We would charge them for the gravel, we would charge them for part of the crush to get the gravel. But the haul itself from down here to up there was close to $250,000 of it.
Can they not, get any out of that rock and tea pit that's there off of?
That was
Chapel
another
Road?
option that was talked about. And I told him to look into how much it would cost to buy it from them.
I don't know what he charges, but,
He doesn't crush up there.
oh, he doesn't.
He has the ability to do it,
Piles it.
yeah, but he hasn't got a lot of crushing, he wouldn't have 3/4 up there, so.
But you might want to have some up there. Might be
It would be a
Good
good
for
idea for us
everybody
to have
else.
it up there too,
yeah.
but until their planning and zoning ordinance changes because of the most recent change, I mean, it said we had to be 1,200 feet from the nearest resident. And that would basically mean that whole pit would never be able to be have crushing it again. So they're looking at changing that.
The mayor used to live right across the street,
Yeah,
the former mayor, when
Yeah.
they changed that.
uh-huh.
She was
That's the one that killed himself, or
No, it's a she.
that was the aftermath?
She was the owner of the RV park right there next to us.
Else?
Last night, I did attend the open house for the high capacity roadway study. There was quite a few people that were there. Austin came too. There was a lot of people there, so hopefully they can get some good information back from the public on some different ideas, and we'll keep marching forward with it.
It does sound like from our TAC BMPO meeting last night and conversations yesterday that our Iona Road project is gonna get awarded
Yes.
the grant. It's not finalized, but
So
it sure
when
sounds
are they
like it's
going, without any official word or?
Kelly told me last night that they didn't know for sure, but he said that it looked like our project was for sure gonna get selected as part of it, so.
Well, that would be good.
That'd be good.
So I know
I
we
just-
talked about right away on that last week, but
And I've talked with Keller Associates, and they're reaching out to the right-of-way agents and trying to start that
Yeah,
process
well-
moving as fast as we can.
We should be okay. As soon as we can get our project balances updated, which we're still waiting for. Well, that should be a small enough part of it.
It'll be close to $1 million, we think, for the right-of-way.
Our cost,
Yeah,
because we have to buy the right of way.
yeah.
What section is that?
The section that the project was put in for was from Ammon Road to 45th East.
and it
Okay.
includes
Is
those
that
two
the bridge?
bridges.
Two
Yeah.
bridges,
The
Two
big-
bridges.
yeah,
All ones,
the-
most of that.
The-
had
the
all
big
stuff
size, the
on the-
schools.
Yeah,
yeah, the one over
it's
Shank Creek
the
is the big one.
area for years that we've had people come in about safety and their kids getting to school, so
Yeah.
hopefully that'll alleviate some of that
Yeah.
too.
From Amended to 45th, right?
Yes,
Yeah, what's the plan for the intersection there by the junior high, now that they've built the parking lot?
there is no plan for the intersection
So that doesn't include that.
no. It would go to the intersection, but it wouldn't include the intersection.
What was the plan originally? Did we have one there?
I thought there was a roundabout on the map I'd seen.
Not for that particular intersection.
It's the school district.
Yeah, I know, they made their parking lot.
Way out so close to the
I
intersection.
asked the superintendent. Some conversation and planning about where to get all that asphalt and curb.
It's awfully close to the right of
So
way.
our guys
not
are
in the
supposed to
right-of-way.
be going to the planning meetings with your road and bridge.
That would be new to
I've
me.
never seen one of them.
Oh, I've seen them, but usually they're talking about different places.
Yeah, but they didn't, I mean, it didn't sound like they had a timeline on official word yet from what Kelly was telling me last night, but he said that he doesn't think the Ammon project's gonna get in there, which is weird to me.
It
'Cause
is
it
kind of
wasn't that
weird.
expensive.
Well, and so that's, Mayor Coletti copied me on an email he sent to him last night about trying to get the city of Ammon's project in there too.
It would be good.
Which is that one?
It's widening Ammon Road from 17th, basically north to Lincoln.
Yeah,
5 lane.
making it 5 lanes, which would be
Boy,
good,
that
it's
would be
needed.
wonderful.
And it wasn't like a $2 million
Yeah,
project
they
or
had all
something.
the right of ways, right? They just
Yeah.
didn't have the documentation when they initially submitted.
Yeah,
They have
so
all
They
of
don't need a whole lot of right of way to do it. Most of it's there.
they've already got most of the width, yeah.
And a lot of that is in county jurisdiction too.
It is good for us that we'll get that Iona project, that'll be helpful.
And then we also have the plan for widening that Hammond Road north of Lincoln. That's essentially done and sitting on the shelf, but it was staying within the existing right of way and just adding some shoulder asphalt to get to a 3-lane section.
So you could do 3 lane.
Yeah, but we haven't, I mean, we've got the plans essentially done, but we haven't done anything with it since then.
We have a cost estimate for that.
There was a cost estimate. I don't recall what it is right now. I can look it up.
But it sounds like they're gonna keep doing this grant money too through
I would
whatever
expect
they
them to
did
try,
here,
but
so,
we'll see.
or try.
I mean, it was budget surplus that Governor Little decided to put into it, so if they have some more surplus.
My discussion with the director was that his intent was to see that this money was liquidated in such a simple way that they would see it's far more efficient than other routes they use for spending
Surplus.
transportation funds.
Well, I'm glad got these argued up like that, because I'm not sure the surplus, you might have some this year. It's not looking positive. So, forecast.
That whole thing about the 7 skinny cows and the 7 fat cows and
That was a different dream.
Yeah,
Anyways, that'll be good if we can get that funding and get that project done too, so.
yeah, because it kind of multiplies what we set aside in our reserve, but we need to identify those to the state. But I think it's the end of the year where those reserves are earmarked.
And is that a different report or is that the
No, it's
end
like
of year?
Pennies required.
Well, she does an end of year report on the roads and
On the
stuff like
roads.
that. And we're starting.
This
work
is on the general
it.
budget.
Different, okay.
Anything that you have to have any excess or surplus money identified where it's going for projects or carryover, whatever.
Will you ask them today at policy board if they know when the official decision will be for those projects? I don't know that they will, but
Roger, why would we want that off alignment through the middle? That kind of caught me off guard a little bit.
You know, we've talked about it in here before. I'm sure you were here. Because you could basically avoid disrupting all of those houses. Get the expensive right of way like we have, and putting a 5-lane, very busy road right in somebody's front yard. That's one argument. The other argument is it opens it up for a good commercial corridor. Yeah.
the thing that pushed me towards the center instead of out where the street existing. All of those old farm homes are close to the road.
Yeah.
Come back to the access there, you have 25 feet.
And
then
this,
a 5-lane. and-
this road is expected to be high speed
Yeah.
and limited
It just
access.
seemed like it would be a lot nicer.
so if they,
It was my neighborhood.
from my understanding with what I talked with Kelly about, if they put it on alignment of 49, then basically they would have to provide alternate access to all those homes that are already along 49. So they were gonna build another, some sort of collector road essentially
Back behind.
back behind their homes and make them redo all their accesses and everything. So that's why my input to him was, well, I think it would probably be better to do it off alignment and leave 49th North as their access and make that the road instead of having the high-speed
local
road
road.
and then redoing everybody's access all along there.
Sure. concerned about it.
You also got the school
Well, it
out there.
just cuts, I mean, it just
Cuts the farm
destroys
field
it
in
all,
half.
yeah.
Yeah.
Always farm ground, just cuts it all in half. I mean,
Yeah.
that would cause it to develop, you
To
know?
develop, but that was the argument for making sure there aren't any other utilities in there. So I know Bonneville, Falls Water can provide a service, you know, similar to what the EXA 113 type of development, which it'll develop, but it's not a type of development that puts a lot of burden on our taxpayers because it's a net generator. You know, that whole, I don't know what to call it, the Stafford Smith property all the way through there. There's very little demand for sheriff, for roads, for things like that, for the taxes they pay.
And a
Yeah.
big chunk of this off alignment goes through this new landed pit that was just done. There's a lot lot of that that's right now really not farm ground. It's dedicated as a
Yeah,
pit.
most
They
of
haven't
it's
got there yet.
industrial on the comprehensive plan too. That's the plan, and there's a lot that's been zoned already, but not developed.
I wasn't up enough and I probably forgot.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of a knee jerk because that was, when City of Idaho Falls wanted to do the North Loop, they were
Yeah.
originally off alignment. And so that
Yeah.
immediately,
No, I get that, and we.
That's
Sure,
my
like,
first thought too.
Yeah.
To cut
but
cornfields
there
in
are,
half.
there are off alignment, had no rationale.
oh yeah, no, I get it. It just made me concerned about this,
Yeah.
but yeah, it sounds
Well,
like.
I mean, I still think long-term, and that'll be long after any of us, probably even your around, you know, to get that done. But it's that kind of planning that, so you don't have a bunch of, you know, because we've taken the steps already to limit that north to residential,
Yeah.
you know, we kind of got those cows back in the corral. But the Idaho Bonneville, you know, if they get there done, they'll have the utilities there. And then you've got a real good area. Yeah, it'll be limited access. Similar to what Sunnyside Road is west.
Yeah.
Which was supposed to be more limited access, but City of Idaho Falls kind of worked their magic with Snake River Landing and got that T intersection there, which messed up things for Stafford. Well, that was quite a fight. If you planned ahead without that type of interference, have a really nice clean area. Yeah, I forgot too that they were gonna have the access and relocate the entrances to all those farmhouses. So you've got a road in the back of your property at a high speed.
Yeah, that's no good.
And the front porch.
Yeah, the on alignment just really affected a lot more people that already had existing structures than the off alignment does.
I was surprised that they were surprised. I mean, they acted like they were leaning more toward the on alignment, you know.
Well, I think they
That was
were
just the environment.
wavering, yeah, because of the environmental impact statements versus they were hoping for a categorical exclusion.
The landing pit, that's City of Idaho Falls went in there, annexed all Ralph Steele's. Or, I mean, Scott Steele's, isn't that right there along that aisle?
No, it's a different section that they annexed for. They annexed on Fifth out beyond, but they haven't got where Landon's has its pit on 49th.
Oh, 49th. Okay, I'm
That
thinking
is
Idaho
next
Road.
to Steele's other stuff, but that's not where the city annexed.
It's a different.
I thought they were looking at, I thought they annexed that, because that's,
They did the stuff out on Fifth. That's
Out on
gonna have,
Fifth,
is that where they're
that's
planning?
where the 20 is
That's
gonna
the-
take off and start
Right.
coming to 26.
Okay, but further up, they've bought a bunch of property. They're gonna put a gas, electric generation plant.
One of the little,
The
I think that's still a
that's-
different,
That's,
different section than what
that's
we're
on the
talking about.
corner of,
Can you pull up the map? We're.
that's on the corner of Iona and Yellowstone, across from where the tires are.
I don't know my sign in.
You should just be able to click exit and it'll still work. It's just one layer that's, never mind.
if you try that, if you go to the partial viewer, you shouldn't have to sign in.
but then we don't get to see this high resolution stuff. It makes it so easy.
Not sure why that's out, because, yeah, I don't.
Are we still
Been using
using?
Mercy.
Yeah, because I need to get it clarified in my mind where we are then, because I don't want to be mixing up the projects
Yeah.
in my mind.
So, we'll do that again, or-
Yeah.
There we go.
Give it to
That's
the-
right, just toss that
Hand
in.
it to the gaming wizard. Are you looking?
Straight out of that back door. Around. Go around that.
So here's 49 north, and
That-
this is Landis pit that they were talking about going through.
Just come straight out.
City has annexed
Scott Steele's stuff's up over here,
back over here.
right here. So that's the stuff they
That's
annexed.
It's
over
on the
here.
other side.
But this
On
is
the other
where
side.
the 1520 loop connector is all going this way.
Right,
So it comes right here and runs through Scott's property
and then they
here.
have to figure out a way to get across.
Ties in,
and
comes
over.
down, and then here's 49th. Then the place where the city's putting their power generator thing is up here,
Yeah, yeah.
right there. So it's on the back side of Landon's pit.
Yeah, it's that.
Not yet, no, because they're not
Putting a new
adjacent.
substation there.
No,
There's
it's
It's like a power generation
They
facility.
generate electricity.
Oh, really? I didn't
Just
know
use
that.
natural gas.
Yeah.
They talked, but they kind of kept it under wraps. Didn't have a problem telling me.
Nothing
They
has
use
come through
gas.
as far as an annexation. that I-
Right over to-
No, not on that piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the alignment. You're affecting basically
Yes.
all of these homes that are right here and their access,
Plus the school.
plus the school, whereas the off alignment, this can still be their access road.
Okay, where would the off alignment be?
I think it runs over here.
Well, they were talking
Now
about
gas.
clear back down through here, but if the off alignment is through here, if it's on alignment, the off alignment was like half a mile down.
Yeah,
But they could go, even if they.
it comes here, so it's like kind of, I mean, it's not perfect through there, but it runs up and then it gets here and then it cuts over
Yeah,
somewhere and comes back in,
So
so
that's. There's Beach's Corner.
right here.
Yeah, because they had talked about like going down to that, that field with your Kirsch.
Yeah, it comes over through here somehow and then wraps back in is on most of their plans.
yeah. And some of that, regardless of whether it's on alignment here, by the time they get out here, it's gonna be off alignment.
I was thinking more about the off alignment.
Gonna
Turn
the
up.
lands and the Forest Service offices in the island properties to the orphans.
Hospital.
Well, that's the intersection. They've already got that, it's gonna take out fishing game, or not fishing,
Forest Service is
Forces
there.
and Department of Lands.
yeah, that's part of the intersection design, redesign.
Oddly enough, they hadn't been told about this.
Well, nothing's been written in stone yet, so.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
but I think they'd like some input before it is. Our state agency.